everybody. Welcome back to another episode of God Built This Podcast. I'm your host, Maxine, and we're on episode 194. Alrighty. So it just came to my attention that this month is Suicide Prevention Month, and I guess I was very on time with the last episode and the topic that I shared in the first 30 minutes or so. I was debating with that episode on whether I should include a disclaimer, or how we do, not we, but like in society now, there's this thing called trigger warning and, yada, yada, yada. I ended up obviously not doing it. But if you listen to the episode already, you'll hear that I did not do a trigger warning. But, this podcast is just my transparent thoughts and feelings, and I hope it wasn't too off-putting. I think some topics, and that's the whole point of this podcast as well. Like I talk about topics that are often stigmatized and put under the rug. And that topic of suicide was just on my spirit to share out loud. And it felt relieving to do so. And it was just an honest conversation. I think so much throughout my life, suicide was always something reserved for the mentally ill, the homeless, like those people, like marginalized people like that. And yet it's not that reserved. It's actually available to everybody. Like, I hate to laugh. It's like, I'm not laughing at it, but like, it's very accessible. Like the most beautiful woman on earth could battle with suicidal ideation, or, actually go through with it. There's been recent reports of suicide by these beauty pageants. There's two that come to mind right now. I don't feel like going into the detail about it, but basically both of them decided to fall to their death, and they're beauty pageant winners, and they're obviously beautiful and they fit the standard bill. And one of which, she is this beautiful woman. Not only is she, or was she, beautiful, but she was highly intelligent. She was actually a lawyer as well. She practiced law and was a lawyer for, I think, about 4 years, until she decided to just leave that profession and go into media hosting and content creation full time. And behind all of that beauty and the success, the materials that she had, and the beautiful home, the high-rise apartment that she lived in, she still battled with suicidal ideations. And it wasn't clear what exactly led to her deciding to die by suicide, but either way, it was something that was hard enough for her to deal with that she decided to do that. And I just say that to say that suicide is unfortunately accessible to everyone, and it's not to the reserved. And I want us to be able to have these conversations and be mindful that the ones who look strong, okay, the ones who look like they have it all together, like they're doing just fine, or like, oh no, Maxine, she's always good, or, Stacey, she's always fine, she's always laughing. I'm just, naming random names. But it's not always like that. And you could really save someone from going down a dangerous rabbit hole by simply checking in on them. And more than just a casual, hey, how you doing? How's your day type of thing? But like really checking in, like, hey, how are you? How's it going? Was like really care to ask, how are they doing, and not just say it in a flippant way. So I say that. And I also wanted to clarify in the last episode, me talking about when people be like, I'm just struggling right now, or, they're having a hard time. And the response that you get from like some Christian people would be, well, just praise and worship through it. Just God is able. It's like, okay, but can I get some practical steps? Or like, can you offer some type of support however you can? I want to clarify that support does not always mean monetary, right? It's not saying, give me fucking money, bitch. Like, it's not saying give me cash. I mean, it is saying that, but it's also not saying that. Like, it's really about how can you be of resource to someone in need, right? Maybe you have a wide network of professionals that you can connect someone to who is in transition of a career. Maybe you can connect someone to the advisory board at a school that you're interested in applying to. Like, maybe you have some type of connection that you can provide to that person, or maybe you could say, hey, I revamped my resume, and since I did that, I've received a lot of feedback or a lot of response from recruiters, and you want me to share it with you. Like, share something like that. And I feel like, those are other strong ways you can provide support to people outside of monetary gain. And of course, offering money is helpful as well. Or just like, hey, I'm gonna, DoorDash you a meal, or, and it's not, and I'm saying these as just examples. It's not saying that I'm in need of X, Y. It's not that. It's just, I feel like sometimes we all live in islands, right? And I talked about this before, how we're not an island, right? I know many of us like to claim introvertedness, and I like to be by myself, and I'm doing remote work, and we isolate ourselves so much so from people, but we're not alone. We're really not in an island. We're sharing space with people. Like, think about it like this. You're living in an apartment complex, and we all go to sleep essentially at the same time. We all trust that we can sleep in the same quarters with people who are strangers and do this every day. Like, we all trust that we could stay in the same quarters and go about our daily life, shower, be naked in our home, and trust that our neighbor won't harm us, at least for the most part. And that just speaks to the fact that we live in built-in communities. We are a community whether we like it or not. So help a neighbor. But no, seriously, I hope this is encouraging to you all to see who in your life whom you can lend a hand to, however that lending of a hand may look like, but try to think outside of yourself for once, or, twice, 3 times, whatever, 3 times a lady. So I just wanted to clarify that in case I wasn't clear enough in that episode. Okay, let's get into it. So the Queen is dead. Queen Elizabeth has passed away today at the time of this recording, and she was at the tender age of 96. She was the longest monarch of monarchs, and she has finally roasted today. And, condolences, of course, regardless of, maybe her being the face of imperialism. R.I.P., right? It's still, polite to say R.I.P. What is interesting, though, is just the amount of the onslaught of people just on Instagram, on social media, saying what they're saying. They're saying, heartbroken, and they post like old pictures of her and yada, yada, yada. And it's just like, it's funny. Look, I think, of course, any death should be allowed grief, right? Like, you should be allowed to grieve someone regardless of how they passed or at what age they passed. But I still feel like, look, she was 96. I mean, hello? Like, she was 96, and it was going to happen at one point or another. And she lived a long life. She was the queen for 30 years. Okay, that's a very long time to be of royal highness and to have so much power in your hands. So, no, I said 30 years. I'm so sorry. 70 years. So Queen Elizabeth II, the UK's longest serving monarch, has died at Balmoral, age 96, after reigning for 70 years. I don't know where I got 30 from. But yeah, 70 years. Imagine that, right? So obviously she started very young. So she started reigning at 26. Wow. Yeah. So she reigned as queen for 70 years, and she died today. She died peacefully at her Scottish estate, where she spent much time at during the summer. And actually, they prepared for this time for decades, actually. And she was a part of the planning for when her time does come and what are the procedures that will take place moving forward. So, and it is what it is. And so now, after her death, her son, King Charles III, I think he will now. Hold on, let me read this. So the queen came to the throne in 1952 and witnessed enormous social change. Her son, King Charles III, said the death of his beloved mother was a moment of great sadness for him and his family, yada, yada, yada. So I read something else that said that King Charles is now at the throne. Let me just find an article. What happens when the queen dies? So, okay, well, whatever. So she died. Someone else is going to take over. London is going to be shut down in some capacity at the very least. And eventually things will operate as usual. What's interesting about the story is that Jason Lee from Hollywood Unlocked said months ago, I think actually maybe even last year, that she died. And when many people was trying to tell him, you're wrong, that's inaccurate, he never led a follow-up statement confirming that he got the news wrong. So there's some conspiracy be on the money as soon as any death comes up. But conspiracy says that she has been dead for some time now, at least since 2020. She's been dead, and whoever they had as the queen in her place was just someone was just like a clone, or someone that they doctored up, probably a hologram at the very least. But I mean, that's kind of crazy. But yeah, so she is gone, ding dong. Jamaica is happy, of course. I heard something that Jamaica is now filing a suit against the UK. What? So whatever. So yeah, rest in peace. She's gone. She lived a long life, and it is what it is. Speaking of the royalty, let's talk about Meghan Markle. There's this trend going on about going on social media and presenting this oppression ass lifestyle, even though you're technically not oppressed, like by the books, right? You're not experiencing racism in a structured, systematic way, right? You're not being not given opportunities, right? You're not being ignored because you're black. No, you still have opportunities. You're still like really rich and successful. Yet Meghan Markle can't really stay in that authenticity that, hey, I made it. I married a prince. I have his babies. I'm that girl. Now, whether or not she really did experience racism from the royal family, I feel like she's milking this so much so to gain more notoriety, gain sympathy, gain compassion, and more followers. So Meghan Markle has released her first podcast episode, and this episode was so listened to that it actually ranked higher than the Joe Rogan Experience on Spotify, which is the first time in a while. And in this episode, she talks about how she was happy to leave the royal family and get her social media accounts back. And she claims her images were instead given to people who were calling my children the N-word. Girl, shut up. Nobody's calling your child a nigga. Okay, like, what are we talking about? Like, is that even a word anymore? Do people even still say the N-word anymore? Do white people still even say the N-word anymore? Especially the ER N-word. And I feel like at the very least, if there are white people still saying the N-word, they're probably the white people who grew up around black people, so much so that they probably have a permanent pass, at least in that neighborhood, to say the N-word. And you know, there are those type of white people who have that pass, who have that permission to, yeah, you can say it around me, dog. You know, I knew you since you were 10. You know, we family. Like, you are my nigga. You could call me a nigga too. Right? Like, I feel like that's the only time when white people are saying nigger, but they're not even saying with the ER, they're saying nigga, right? So I just feel like, girl, shut up. The UK, are they saying nigger? Oh, would you like some tea, nigger? Like, no one's fucking saying that about your children who aren't even black, right? So, okay, granted, Meghan Markle has a black mother. Her children, their phenotype don't even reflect any type of blackness, at least not yet. Maybe they'll grow into it, but they're a spitting image of Prince Harry, okay? And Meghan Markle turned out so light skinned. So regardless of her dark skin, brown skinned mother with thick, coarse hair, Meghan Markle did not at all receive any of those genetics. Okay. She turned out to look more like her father and her father's side. And everyone else from her father's side. But aside from that, I wouldn't even think she was a black person or biracial person. I would just assume, okay, well, you know, maybe she's Italian, Portuguese, Sicilian. Okay, so this whole, I'm black too. And as a mother of black children, it's like, I feel like at this point, you know how for a while it's been, you know, debating what is a woman. Now it's going to be what is black, right? You know, what is a black woman or a black person? I'm black too. You're black. We're all black. And this will be a push because you could gain currency, social currency, monetary like dollar bills by simply saying I'm black and I'm oppressed and you should pay me because of that, and I'm a part of the woke Olympics. So she's going around saying that people in the royal family is calling her child the N-word. No, they're not. Like, you're fine, everything's fine, just like stop. Like, embrace the world that you're in. Embrace the fact that you married your prince, literally. You sought him out and you won, okay? Prince Harry was a bachelor, like the bachelor poster child, and you finally locked him down. You did it, girl. You won. You won the game. So this whole, oh my gosh, still woe is me. Life is still hard. And my kids, I suffered a lot. No, you didn't. Where is the evidence? Where is the proof? And she, of course, will never come forward with the actual name of whomever in the royal family called her child the N-word. She will never come forth and say who in her family, in her royal family, said to her, oh, what color is he going to turn out? Remember she said that before? Like, while she was pregnant, someone in the royal family said to her, how dark is he going to turn out? speaking like that. This is 2022, and this, took place probably like a few years ago, but this is not a normal conversation. At some point, the media has to say, okay, I call bullshit. Let's not give this any light. Because it's just a joke. Like, this is not at all reality. Like, no one speaks like that. No, there's no white people saying the N-word anymore unless you are a white who grew up in a predominantly black area and you have been given the social pass and maybe a physical card to say the N-word. Other than that, you can't find me a white person who still says the N-word. You can't, okay? And it's a joke if you do. It's a joke. So Meghan Markle, please shut the fuck up. Okay, now the next person who needs to shut the F up is AOC. AOC. Lord. Okay, so she is featured in the latest GQ magazine, and she gives an interview, and there's a quote of hers, and she says this: realistically, I can't even tell you if I'm going to be alive in September, and that weighs heavily on me. So she says this just kind of like out of nowhere, and this is kind of like a red flag, an alarm. Like, this is concerning because, again, this is Suicide Prevention Month. It is quite disturbing. Like, are you saying that because you are feeling just really down and out and you feel like there's no hope and you might as well go ahead and end it? Like, are you saying it because of that? Or are you saying, I think it's leaning more towards her feeling like her life is in danger and she's at risk of getting killed because of this whole propaganda that's being pushed forth against MAGA people and Trump supporters, and feeling like she's being targeted. Either way, though, I don't understand this lack of safety that she claims she has. You are working in the Congress. You have security guards. You have a strong security system in your home probably. You probably have someone waiting outside, securing your property 24 hours, 7 days a week. So you feeling like you may not even be alive in September. This is September. I don't know when they did the interview. Did they do the interview in July and August? And she just felt like, I have 2 more months. I have a month left. Something's going to happen to me. I may not be alive in September. Like, where does that even come from? It's very strange. So she also talks about in this interview that she experiences an open hostility to her presence and her existence during her first term in Congress. She felt that way from her Democratic colleagues, and that's quite interesting because you would think that, her being a part of the squad, the progressive squad in the Democratic Party, that she would feel this community, that there is this group that she belongs in that protects her, but it's quite the opposite from her experience. She also says, and the pervasiveness of that diminishment, it was all encompassing at times. I feel a little more steady on my own 2 feet now, but would I say that I have the power to shift the elected federal Democratic Party? No. Okay. She also says that it's a real shame. Let's see. So they treated her like a one-term member of Congress, and they worked to make me a one-term member of Congress. There was a very concerted effort from the Democratic side to unseat me, which is actually very weird to me because isn't she a representative of the Democratic side? So you would think her own party will be supportive of her. So I don't understand. So it's like, okay, she hates the red wing party. She hates conservatives. She hates Republicans. And she also gets slack from her Democratic Party. She also dislikes them too, probably, from that slack that she receives from them. So, okay. Like, What are we doing? Like, that is a horrible place to be in, to not feel supported at any cost, at any direction. You feel this hostility, this angst against you, then that is a cause for concern. I would feel unhappy at the very least in that position. So I could understand her discomfort. But on another hand, I do wonder if this is just another case of her being dramatic and maybe making shit up, or like making things more than what they were. I remember when she talked about the whole January 6th debacle that took place and her really thinking that her life was in danger. Now, granted, maybe she really felt that way, and maybe she really was in the midst of so much chaos and rioting physically in her face that she felt like anything could have happened. That is scary. But I also feel like all that was a scam. So I also feel like it wasn't real. I also feel like it was a hysteria that was orchestrated and structured for us to continue to divide and debate each other and be divisive. So there's that. Now, maybe she wasn't aware of the scam, but I am. It's me. It's me who knows it. So I just feel like I don't know. Like it's so bizarre. That whole situation was so bizarre to me. Like how is there surveillance evidence that proves officers, security guards allowing these rioters to enter the building that is typically secured 24/7. No one can just walk up in there. But you mean to tell me these security officers with weapons, with protection to use against any violators are opening the doors to let a riot in? Like, okay. It just feels like a joke. Everything's a joke and it doesn't make any sense. So, the thing is with AOC, she has a history of always talking about oppression and feeling oppressed. I'm always oppressed. I can't ever see a brown woman becoming a president, and just kind of this woe is me. This woe is me. Like when Obama won, he won because he created this tone of hope. He made us believe, yes, we can. Yes, we can. Okay, I will provide. I'm the guy you could count on. You could have faith in me. You could have hope in. Like, that is something that is so powerful. I talked about it in the last episode. Like, if you don't have hope, you really don't have a will to live anymore. You really don't. Like, if you feel like nothing will get better and there is no light at the end of the tunnel, and what's the point of it all? Is all going to be the same thing? Your hope is gone and your will to live is gone as well. So that explains Obama's success, because he drove on the feet of hope and he allowed Americans to believe in him. He created this persona that allowed for us to believe in him and believe that, yes, hope is here. Oh my gosh. And he's a black president. He's a black man. Like, that's how he got a lot of votes and won. Now with AOC, she is this dooms and glooms girl. Nothing is right. There's no progression. There's no kumbaya. There's no unity. It's gonna be guns blazing. I may not even be here in September. Like, what are we what? Aren't you 32? Like, what's going on? Like, why are you feeling this way? Like, it's really not that deep. It really doesn't have to be. Like, let's look at some hope. Look at you, this Latino or Latinx now, or Latine. I don't fucking know anymore. But look at this. Look at you, a woman of color in this position in Congress. That is a big ass accomplishment. You should feel hopeful. You should feel grateful, and you should be able to express that and drive off of that to the public. So I just feel like she's a plant at this point. Like, her job is to be doom and gloom. Her job is to make us feel like, we're always in danger and there's a constant threat against us. No one wants to live like that. Like, I don't want to live like I have a cloud over my head and like someone is after me and I'm being chased by MAGA people. Like, what are we doing? And there's good people on both sides. Shout out to Donald Trump. But seriously, I just want someone to, and it's weird because she's in a relationship. I think she's engaged to a white man, The irony. She hates white men and white supremacy so much, so yet she is in bed with the white man. I just don't get that, right? Like, I just feel like, and you know how I talk about how when you have a Malcolm X type of person, right, so loud and proud about black oppression and the white man is the devil and white supremacy needs to be stopped, and you laying up with the devil himself. Okay, I'm not saying Malcolm X obviously did that. I'm just using that as an example, right? If you are a Malcolm X type of person and you have that radical idea, like a Dr. Umar Johnson, when that clip came about of him talking to that white woman, he wasn't really talking to her like that, but because he spent even longer than 10 seconds communicating with her, the social media platforms were just taking that and using that as a way to clown him, because he always talks about snow bunnies and, him being disappointed and discouraging black men and black women from being in interracial relationships. So, I just think AOC is just very hypocritical when it comes to her white supremacy anecdotes, yet her fiance is a white man, a whole white man. So God bless her soul. I think she needs to just get off of this oppression Olympics, get off of social media, and not even just get it off, but like, if you have to get on it, change your feed. Like, maybe whatever is showing on her feed on Instagram, on TikTok, is about oppression, is about another shooting, another stabbing, another this. It's like, let's look at some puppies, let's find a way to increase our endorphins, because this shit right here, nigga, is too much. Kanye West have said many things throughout the years that led to controversy, but now I'm finding myself questioning if I have misjudged him. The time when I was on the left, I was finding myself disgusted with Kanye West because of his MAGA support, him wearing the hat and standing next to Trump and meeting with Trump and just idolizing him. I was against that. But it wasn't even just that directly. It was also because I see Kanye as this opportunist, as someone who's going to use any and everything to garner attention, and it just comes off inauthentic and disingenuous. So, not too long after that, he then became this radical Christian and said that he's going to make Christian music from now on and yada, yada, yada. It's like, okay, is he just saying this just to garner more fans? Is he saying this just to capture the church audience? Because, black people and God, right, we go together. Black people in the church, we go together. So if you could get even more fans simply by saying, hey, I'm saved, right? Hey, I am a believer. I worship Jesus Christ. You could simply be saying it because it's going to lead to success. There are going to be a large there's going to be a large group of people who will support you simply because of that. Like, oh my gosh, he loves God now, I'll support him. Like, there are people who will literally just do it for that reason alone. So for the most part, it's hard for me to distinguish whether or not Kanye West is being authentic, and that's really where my feelings lie with him, though. But just pushing that to the side for a moment, I think now medically he actually is crazy. He said himself that he is bipolar, but he refuses to take his medication because he feels like it dulls him, which is the common response that I've heard from people who do have mental illnesses and are prescribed some medication, and when they take it, they don't feel like themselves, and they hate how they feel with it. And I had a brief moment with that. I remember when, a few weeks ago, I went to the ER and was given these pills for anxiety. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be great. It's going to help kind of calm me down. And when I took just one, thank God I just took one, I was like, yo, I hate this. Like, it really did dull me out, like people would say, and it's like it feels like, I don't know how to describe it. Your body, I feel like my body was super numb. I felt heavy. I didn't have energy. I just felt like this weight was on me. It didn't feel good. It was not a great, pleasurable experience. It lasted longer than I hoped. And it just really ruined that day for me. Like, when I took it and when it kicked in, I was so just not in the mood. I didn't have much energy. It was horrible. So yeah, I threw that shit away, and I won't ever take that again. But so I understand how one with a mental illness would feel having a prescribed medication, and that medication typically dulls your body and your natural self out. So, technically he is crazy, right? So, I mean, look, he's not crazy, but it doesn't mean that maybe we should always dismiss what he says. I think the way that he delivers things, yes, is a bit off-putting, and it's not always received well. But I'm trying to look at him in a different lens. And I'm trying to look at him as the victim that he is. Now, granted, yes, he made the choice to marry Kim Kardashian, right? This woman who is known for being this, essentially a porn star. She started off her career catapulted simply because of a sex tape that was actually manipulated into being leaked. It was all structured, as what Ray J says. They got a deal to leak it, got money for it, but this was all under the hands of her mother, Kris Jenner. It was all a setup for her to be who she is today. And because of that sex tape, she has this whole kingdom, really. Like, she has this successful brand. And she is able to lure a lot of men into her trap. And all the men that she has lured into her personal space has left feeling less of a man. Like, I feel like their masculinity has been stripped from them, and it has taken them a while to get back into who they are. If you just think about her track record with majority black men, the black men who finally move on, it's like their career's not the same. Like, there's just a difference with how they operate. And it's weird. It's very weird. So Kanye West fell victim to that because, it's ironic. There's a song of Kanye West where he talks about gold digging and basically warning men to stay away from gold diggers and, women who are opportunists. Yet he marries a Kim Kardashian, and I think with Kanye West's track history, he was previously with Amber Rose. Like, they're of the same ilk. And men like him, I feel like same thing with Tyrese. Tyrese needs help. I don't know what's going on with him. Like his songs don't even hit the same after seeing how his like personal life is. It's just not. I feel like at some point it's like, I don't want to know you anymore. I just want to like listen to your song and live in this fantasy that I've created of you in my mind, because the real you is not attractive. Like Tyrese does not look attractive to me anymore. I see him as unhinged. Like even like I used to find him physically attractive, but now that I see him unhinged, physically he doesn't look attractive to me anymore. Like it's actually very okay. That nigga over there is weird, but anyway, Kanye went on a screenshotting his conversation via text with Kim Kardashian, and he shared it on Instagram. And even like the way that he writes, like what's going on? And maybe it's like, the educator in me, but like, my goodness, can you speak correctly? So let's see. I want to read exactly what he has said in this text exchange. So he says, first he talks about his Adidas and some BS with that, but I don't really care about that. So he says anyway, no. So Kim Kardashian says to him, "Can you please stop?" And she's referencing the way that he's talking to her, and Kris Jenner wanting him to stop too, and she's pulling this whole I'm 67 and I just can't deal with this. I have pain. This is stressing me out. I need him to stop. So she's trying to do that. This came after a conversation he had with Kim. He said verbatim, "It's not up to Calabasas or Hulu where my kids go to school. I'm not the crazy one here. It's up. I won't stop until I have a say-so on my kids, no matter what it legally takes." Okay, that's cool. I respect that. What else? He says, "No, we need to talk in person. You do not have say-so of where the kids go to school. Why get say, because you half white?" And that's what he says. Like, what? Okay. And how's she half white? She's white. She's white. Like, I get it. She has this exotic look. She has this big fake ass, but the bitch is white. Kim says, "From my mom, please tell him, please stop mentioning my name. I'm almost 67 years old and I don't always feel great, and this stresses me to no end." Kanye then says, "Y'all don't have say so," or so, he means say so, but he says, "Y'all don't have so." Like, what? "Over my black children and where they go to school." Like, what are we talking? Okay. And then he finally says, "Don't let Kris make you do Playboy like she made Kyle and Kim do. Hollywood is a giant brothel. Pornography destroyed my family. I deal with the addiction. Instagram promotes it. Not gonna let it happen to daughters, Northie and Chicago." Now, it's interesting that he says that because he decided to date and marry a pornographic star, right? Like, he made the choice to marry her despite knowing her history and how she became who she became. And yes, he does admit that he dealt with the addiction of pornography and he sees it all around him and he was basically a victim to it. And I think that's a fair, honest take. I think we should give him that grace and that space to say that, because that is true. Pornography really does capture you if you're not aware of it, right? Like, and then you're then making decisions based off of these pornographic images and videos that you've watched for years upon years, and then you don't realize it until it's too late, right? So he may not have envisioned for himself as a young boy to have been married to someone who is known in the streets, but because of his love for pornography it led to that. You know what's interesting? A lot of times you have these men out here who say they want a natural woman. I want my woman to look natural. I want her hair to be natural. I want her face to be natural. I want her body to be natural. Yet they're fucking all these fake bitches. Huh? They're fucking all of these fake bitches. And it makes these like natural women, myself obviously included, feel like what is really the beauty standard? You know, like what is what? Because on one point you appreciate, or you say you appreciate, a natural woman. And then on the other hand, you're mad I don't have my nails done, right? Or like you're mad I don't have a full flesh of pedicure. I don't know. I'm just bringing up an example from my past because I remember certain instances with some men. Like I remember this guy I dated. I talked about him before. His moniker here is Houston Bay. And I remember when we first met, and mind you, at this time I was locked. And that was when my hair was in locks, and you know, I was always just still me, right? I never wore wigs. I never, you know, there was like maybe a few, like I could count the time on one hand when I've worn like weaves, like weaves or sew-in, but I don't wear those hairstyles. And my makeup is typically very natural looking for the most part. Like it's not so glammed up. One, because I don't know how to do that. Like I'm not a makeup artist to know how to do that. I don't even wear eyeshadow like that because I always feel like I'm not doing it right. So I just leave it at that. Anyway, I say all that to say, when he met me, I was still in my natural, like I'm just still natural. And he definitely met me natural with my locked hair at the time. But I still look good, right? So like I was still dressed sexy. We met at a club, and I was still that girl, right? You know, still am that girl. So anyway, yeah, and I say this to say, he was attracted to me then, right? He was attracted to me in that look, in the same look, right? With my hair being locked and in the style that it was in, and my body looking the way like everything was just, it wasn't like I tricked him by the end of the night and I took my makeup off and it's like, who's this bitch? It wasn't that. So we started dating for like 3 months, and just quite fast after we met, he started showing me that, he's one of these niggas who would say, I like natural women, but I really don't like natural women, right? I really don't make the natural woman that I claim to like feel appreciated and feel like I desire her. So he'll say comments to me like, do you ever do anything different with your hair? Like wanting me to wear hairstyles that are not natural to me, that doesn't make me feel comfortable and beautiful, right? I'm the type of person, like I don't really feel comfortable in, granted I never wore a wig or, you know, lace front or anything like that, but just looking at it, and yes, there are plenty of women who wear it and they look great and it looks beautiful, and there are a lot of women who wear it and it doesn't look great. It doesn't look beautiful. But either way, I just don't feel comfortable with it in general, because if it feels like what it looks like it will feel like for me is a helmet on my head. I'm the type of woman who likes to touch my scalp. I like to feel my scalp. I like to rub on my scalp. I like to massage my scalp. I like for my scalp to be massaged. Can you massage my scalp? Yo, I love getting my hair washed. I love just massage my scalp. Some things I don't even want to tell people to do. Just massage my scalp, okay? That is such a relieving and relaxing feeling, and I really enjoy that. Anyway, massage my scalp. Where was I going with that? Yeah, and when you wear wigs and even sew-ins as well, it blocks access to your scalp. Your scalp is hard to find because it's covered in the sewing, it's covered in the wig, and it's hard to dig in and scratch and massage your scalp. It's very annoying. So yeah, I don't like it. And that's why I like wearing my hair out, braids, goddess braids, knotless braids, twists, just natural hairstyles, because I get to really still feel my head. My head is not covered, and there isn't a helmet on. So I remember throughout that time dating this nigga, he would just say things as if I was supposed to adopt this new look, this look that he did not met me in. Like, he didn't meet me wearing a lace front wig. He didn't meet me like that. And he wanted me to switch it up. He wanted me to have a new hairstyle. Like, how I just have a new hairstyle? My hair is locked. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm not wearing a wig. So what? This is what you get. Yeah, so again, so you have these type of men who would say, I like a natural woman, right? I like a woman who is just, I like stretch marks and I like all these things. Like, really? Because I'm about to leave my armpit hair out. Do you like that? Right? Do you like me when my armpit hair is out? Is that okay for you? Or are you just saying this shit to just say it? Okay, damn. Like, it's just some things people say. Anyway, so Kanye West comes off a little disingenuous. He reminds me of that type of guy. I do see that he may have been victimized by the pornography culture that we live in and the accessibility of it all. Instagram does promote pornography. Not like hardcore porn, right? You can't post that, but you could have basically a whole ass shot out in Instagram, and it's just a regular photo. Like, you could like the photo, you could share the photo, you could save the photo, like, you could easily view the photo. It's not like it's a photo that's blurred and you have to type in a password to determine that you're of age. That'd be kind of cool if they did that, but it's not like that. And Twitter's another thing. You can find full-on hardcore porn orgies, okay, on Twitter. Now, I wonder if Jack Dorsey knows this, right? I wonder if he's aware of this. But, I mean, he probably doesn't care anymore since he stepped down. Either way, pornography is very accessible, okay? Just like suicide, right? Stop. Suicide Prevention Month, there is a hope to live. And I want to wrap up that conversation again and just say, I really do hope that everyone finds hope in their lives, right? Whatever that looks like for you, maybe that's hope in your pursuits, in your goals, in your desires, hope in your family, hope in your children, I hope everyone has hope at the very, if you don't have anything else, I hope you have hope. I hope you have hope, because hope will give you the will to live. So just to kind of wrap that conversation up. But yeah, Kanye West is, I think maybe I was a little harsh on his actions, right? His character. I do think that he is sometimes disingenuous, but I look at him as a victim of the Kardashians and a victim of this pornographic culture that we're living in, which led to him deciding to, yes, he made a decision, right? And he has to eat that decision. But he made the decision to marry a pornographic star. And now he's suffering the consequences of being manipulated by this media maven, this family that is beloved by so many, and that has the power to manipulate what we see to make us see him as this crazy person rather than us questioning their motives and their actions. So I do see him as a victim to that. Like, I think it's actually kind of scary that he's in a situation where he may be victimized, or he may be outnumbered, and he's fighting for his life, right? He's fighting for his life. He's fighting for the life of his children, the life of his daughters, making sure that they're not getting persuaded and lured into a lifestyle that he is condemning. And especially now that he is full-fledged Christian and really proclaiming Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior, it's a beautiful thing to see. Now I'm seeing that as genuine. I do. So, my fault for not, yeah, I mean, I did doubt it, but, considering his actions historically, it's pretty legitimate for me to doubt it. But anyway, it's nice to see that he does find purpose and hope in his relationship with God, and to see how that is demonstrating in his relationship with his children. I think that definitely speaks to the fork in life that he's in. Like, damn, I married this woman who I realized probably wasn't the best choice to marry, and now I have to fight with this woman and her family to ensure that my children are protected, and that their heart and their spirit are protected and not raptured by the glitz and the glam and lured into a pornographic lifestyle. But he's gonna have to eat that. I don't know what else that he can do, because he doesn't have much of the media's favor. But who knows what will happen. Who knows? Okay, so Tiffany Haddish decided to speak up and make a statement since that video resurfaced. That disturbing video of her acting in a skit as this single mother who leaves her young children with her uncle, who is clearly a pedophile, and she is going about her activities and her day, and not being a present mother physically and emotionally. And in that video, it's just disturbing. There are acts of pedophilia present, maybe not like full-on penetration, but there are acts that would make you think it's leading to it. And there's different parts in the video that is just disturbing, like, him looking at the little boy, Ari Spears looking at the little boy with this lust in his eyes and rubbing baby oil on him. And then I learned that the rest of the video, because I didn't watch past 1minute and 30 seconds, but I learned that the rest of the video includes the boy then not lusting, because it's a boy, right? But the boy is now picking up the same habits and behavior that was done to him by Ari Spears, and he's now reciprocating that to Ari Spears. And it's just all around disturbing. And yes, there is a PSA in this, right? There is a PSA in this, and I agree with the whole rhetoric of you don't have to actually sexually abuse a child to talk about sexual abuse, right? Or to make a PSA, public service announcement about sexual abuse. I totally agree with that, right? Like, there could have been and should have been another way to address this, but there wasn't. I mean, they didn't exercise the other way. But I think what that part of the video speaks to is the fact that you do have examples in real life of pedophiles who have been victims of pedophilia themselves, and unfortunately they grow up and become the very predator that they were a victim to when they were young, right? You see how tables are turned, and you see how an evil, heinous act could influence someone to become that evil doer. So, though the skit definitely was disturbing to say the least, and there should have been something else done instead of what they decided to do, it does bring up great conversation, right? Like, it does make you open your eyes to how sick pedophilia is and how it can lead to someone, not just being a victim of it, but unfortunately being the predator once they get older. So Tiffany Haddish decided to speak up and say, I'm just going to paraphrase it. Basically, she says that she understands how disturbing the video is, and she can't really speak more on the matter because it's an ongoing case, and she regrets that she decided to act in it. Now, she uses those choice of words, and I find it to be very interesting because it comes off as if she was this victimized woman who had no choice but to act in this play. Bitch, shut up. Shut up. You made a decision. You were an adult at the time. You wasn't a child yourself, and you agreed to not only recruit these little kids, but in have them feel trusted in your arms. Apparently, allegedly, she was friends with the kid's mother. And allegedly, they also say that they had a lesbian relationship. Who knows if that's true? But let's say, at the very least, she had a friendship with the kid's mother. And of course, in that friendship, she felt, the mother felt like she could trust Tiffany well enough to trust her child, her both of her children with her. And I also hear that the mother, was also coming up in the comedy scene, and that's how she met Tiffany, and that's how they began their friendship. So either way, you have Tiffany, not a willing participant, no, a recruiter, someone who was also the creator and the head honcho of this skit. So to say, oh, I regret to have acted in this, I regret to have participated in this, it's very very secondary, right? It's very much like she knew nothing about it until they said lights, camera, action, and there was a gun to her head to perform. No. Like, Tiffany Haddish knew what she was doing. She recruited those kids. She knew the contents of the skit. And again, I still say I blame the mother. I feel like the mother should have been diligent enough in her mothering, and she should have been aware of the content of the skits. And if she was aware and agreed to having her children be a part of it, then shame on her. Shame on her. You have these moms who are so thirsty to have their children be in the entertainment industry that they will do so much of anything to ensure that their child will be a star. I'm going to do anything and everything to have my child a star. And you have so many of these child actresses and actors who grew up and realized that, wow, like, I had a fucked up childhood and my parents didn't care because they got a check from it and they got a nice home from it and they got luxurious items from it. And yet I'm being abused by my manager. I'm being abused by the producer on set. Right? Like, so you have these parents who are so thirsty for the limelight that if they weren't the one, if the parent themselves weren't the one to make it in Hollywood, then they will find by any means necessary to live through that by way of their children. And so you have an example of a parent here that seems to have been a negligent parent, that seems to have been thirsty for the limelight. And considering that allegedly she may have been a comedian herself and at least trying out in comedy, starting up in comedy, and who knows however that was going, but she was still interested enough to make it some way, somehow in Hollywood, that she decided to allow her children, both of her children, into this skit. So I think all parties are guilty as F. And yes, sure, Tiffany finally says that she regrets it and she wished she would have never acted in it. But I would need her to say a little bit more. But I think the reason why she can't say any more, like she said, is due to it being an active lawsuit. Ari Spears is still on his stance of this is a shakedown. This is exploitation. And after he said those two words, he finally concluded and said he can't say more to that because of it being an active lawsuit as well. So who knows? I think two things can be true. I think it was definitely just disturbing, disgusting. They should have never did that skit. They should have found another way to talk about pedophilia in a way that can be comedic. Like I said, I think there's no topic that can't be funny. You can find humor in any and everything, and you just have to be smart enough with your words to be able to deliver it comedically. Like, there is a way to talk about pedophilia in a way that is comedic. There is a way, right? Just find, just a strong writer who can put their words together to make it funny. So there is a way, but I just feel like in this circumstance, it just wasn't the way. They did not do a good job in talking about it, in giving a public service announcement about it. So yes, I think two things can be true. I think they made a poor decision with the development and the creation and the production of this video, of this skit. And I do think there is a level of extortion, of a shakedown that is happening. I think two things can be true, and I just think the timing is actually very interesting too, considering this released probably a day or two after Ari Spears' comments about Lizzo looking like the shit emoji. Like, I think it's all orchestrated. And even when I talked about that comment that he made, I think it was orchestrated as well. Like, it was just so random. Like, he was just randomly asked about Lizzo. And it makes me wonder if he's all in on it. Like, is this all a show for us? Like, are they producing this as just another source of entertainment for us to discuss back to back to back? Like, I wonder what's going on. I just feel like a lot of these things are just so well calculated, and all the world is a stage. Okay? All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening. I'm going to end the episode here. I appreciate every listen. Make sure you are telling a friend and telling a friend. Also, be sure to have liked and share this podcast and be subscribed on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and also YouTube. Again, we are on YouTube. Type in God Built This Podcast and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You will see episodes every Tuesday and Friday uploaded into YouTube as well. Some visual, elements present there, and it's typically also on the audio platforms as well. So thank you again for listening and supporting this podcast. Be sure again to leave a strong review on any of the platforms this podcast is on: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor, and YouTube. Oh, and that reminds me, we got another amazing review on YouTube from, let me pull it up. And like I said, you guys, whenever you leave a review on any platform, I haven't checked the Apple Podcasts and Spotify platform to see if there's any review there. I haven't checked recently. I've checked before, and there have been reviews, and there are reviews. So I really appreciate all those who have reviewed. But yes, there's a recent comment left on the last episode 193, called Praise and Worship, and it's from Studio 37, and this person said, love this. I love you for loving this. Thank you so much for that comment. I appreciate it. So shout out again to Studio 37 for leaving an amazing comment. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening, and I will check in with you guys next time. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of God Built This Podcast with your host, Maxine. Be sure to leave a review, give me 5 stars, and of course, subscribe. Also, follow God Built This Podcast on Instagram at God Built This Pod. God bless.